Hey there guys, welcome back to some more of my Resident Evil Village VR playthrough. So we just beat Moreau. He was a pretty dumb fight, and he's worse on this version compared to the original version because I can't implement my strategy very well. And so I had to run the gambit with him and nearly get hit a couple of times. But at least now we'll be able to tackle Orias, tackle a lot of these other side areas. I'm sure it won't be so bad. So while I was in the intermediary period between videos for this playthrough, new stuff was shown for Resident Evil 4 Remake, which I did videos for. A lot of fun. How are you still alive after that? Come on, there we go. That is so clunky with the detection. And this is still no problem because that Barkalak is just slowed by the other enemies. So I had mentioned to one of my subscribers in some other video that I wouldn't be including the VR version in my review. And yes guys, the review is still happening, it's just there's all this dull stuff happening right now. It's just taking away from my desire to start the review right now. It's all just pretty stupid stuff related to my job, this and that, which I'm not excited for whatsoever. I'm just in a bad spot, guys, pretty much. At least I have the time to do this. Oh. I guess I did grab the grenade launcher. But, I don't really see what I could possibly mention in this VR version of Resident Evil Village that's worth, acknowledging in the review. I just don't think it's really worth it. I mean, I might make some subtle nods to the VR version here and there in my review, but not anything that's really worth a lot of detail.
Do you have enough firepower?
That's what I'd say. But you know one thing I've never really understood about Resident Evil Village? The price changes that Village of Shadows difficulty does, where you just seem to get more treasure from the enemies. Does Village of Shadows difficulty make the upgrades and purchases more expensive in the Merchant? Or do they just stay the same between Hardcore and Village of Shadows, but they're just giving you more treasure when you kill enemies? That's something I've found pretty confusing, and boy, that looks very intimidating. I wonder if that's worth mentioning in my review, if that's actually true, if the prices for upgrades and ammunition in the Merchant is the same between Hardcore and Village of Shadows, but the only difference between Hardcore and Village of Shadows is that the enemies drop more treasure. It's interesting to note that because then it further contributes to this idea that this game is designed for the Merchant in mind, and because it's designed with the Merchant in mind, it just caused new Capcom to favor so many shortcuts and designs. I wonder if it's worth taking a segment from the review and just putting it into the community posts just to get you guys hyped for it. But I don't know if I have the excitement level for that, or the focus to do anything like that. Because the thing with me is, whenever like something very dull, boring, or just downright annoying is just looming over my head, whether it be something fucking tedious, with like my job for instance, that I'm not even excited about, it casts a gloom over my mindscape. And so it makes me not want to partake in a lot of this exciting content, or like just partake in my games, for instance. Because I don't want the positive experiences that I get to be soured by the negative. Okay, for a second there, I thought he was alive. I don't know why, but on this VR version, actually, kinda took me by surprise. I thought for a second there he was an enemy. I don't know why. I shouldn't be thinking that after so many playthroughs of Resident Evil Village. But, yeah, when you're actually staring through the eyes of Ethan Winters directly, you just get caught by stuff like that. do find that pretty cool. That you can use your fist to stop those running attacks. Not that there's any real need to do that. And the fact that you can fire the shotgun a lot faster on this VR version is a real plus. Hello? What the? Oh, it's because that body was in the way. But the fact that this VR version fixes the issues with the shotgun by completely changing the programming of it, where you actually can pump it yourself and fire it faster, it means the Lycans are going to be a lot more balanced. See that? I love this change with the shotgun. Why couldn't they make the shotgun fire faster in Resident Evil Village? How could a game that is more high octane and a lot more focused on like the combat, because like there's a lot more high octane set pieces in this game, and this game is like faster paced compared to Resident Evil 7. How could a shotgun like this be slower than a shotgun from a slower paced game? Or not really like a slower paced game like Resident Evil 7, but like a mix between fast and slow paced gameplay. How could this shotgun be slower than Resident Evil 7 shotgun? It makes no sense. It makes zero sense how they could make that kind of error, and I'm picking up the wrong thing. Oh! That was close. And you know another thing I do like about this VR version? The fact that you can actually fire and sprint at the same time. In Resident Evil Village, for some reason, if you fired your weapon, it would kill your sprint. But see? You can actually fire and sprint at the same time on this VR version. So they changed up one piece of programming with the sprint, yet they didn't fix the turning animation issue. But again, for a faster paced game, how can you not run and sprint at the same time? Resident Evil 7 allowed this. Like, new Capcom completely lost the plot on what a faster-paced game is supposed to be. And they perfected this perfectly with Resident Evil 7, but they just ruined it with this game. And there's no excuse. How could they make these kind of blunders? But I am still updating my review, actually. I mean, I know I mentioned in a community post that I finished the review, but every single time I think I'm done, something comes up, and it's just worth mentioning. Like, for instance, Dust Golem can find all these details about Resident Evil 7's lore, and they can be applied to Resident Evil Village as well. And I feel like it's worth mentioning because of that. Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, can the Lycans do the running grab off camera? Because in Resident Evil 4 VR, the Ganados could actually throw their melee weapons even when they weren't on your screen, which was a huge change from the original version of Resident Evil 4. I think based on what I've played so far, it doesn't seem to be the case. There's no additional spawn. This is... There's no one here. There'd be way more enemies swarming this area. Have they removed a certain number of enemies from Village of Shadows difficulty? Interesting. I did not expect that. I did not expect that kind of change to the enemy placements. There's way less enemies on this VR version. This is so interesting.
This must be their den.
This is gonna be a little weird. At least I was fortunate there weren't any enemies here.
Okay, big guy.
Okay, so that's gonna be the weird strategy I use for this sequence, because the start is not very good. Oh great, and I'm out of space. But does the game even think about arranging it itself? No. Just wants to get a free ride, huh? Lazy inventory system. See, I never had to deal with this on hardcore because I just damage. Oh shit! God damn, that scared me. That's a lot of recoil. Fucking hate that. Turning animations are still an issue. What the f- Did you see that bullshit? You see that phantom fucking range? Where the fuck did that come from? I thought it was at the right damage threshold. Apparently not. God damn it. It's like I never had to deal with this fight on hardcore because I just used my flash rounds to stun him and just use my magnum. But I really have to take into account a lot of the nuances with the VR system. See, like when he slams his hammer or he collides it with a wall, it's not shaking my camera, which is good. Alright, now it's time to finish him off with the magnum. I'll put it there. Yeah, I don't like that fight. That fight is so fucking awkward on Village of Shadows. I much prefer the original version, even though the original version's still pretty bad. I mean, the times when I try to warm up to the original version of Aureus, he just does something that gets me very angry with him. Because he does something pretty bullshit. Like he normally does. I'm still not impressed with this VR version of Resident Evil Village. It's nowhere near as interesting as Resident Evil 4 VR. And Resident Evil 4 VR does have its problems, but I just think as a VR game, it's better put together compared to Resident Evil Village. Because the systems in Resident Evil 4 are complementary to a VR version. Like when you're talking about the stun systems, or like the way they've designed certain enemies. And in certain cases, the VR version fixes or like slightly modifies certain sequences for them to be a bit better. But you thought those previous fights with Moreau and Aureus were bad? Heisenberg is infinitely worse because of the artillery device. It's hard to put into words just how badly handled the artillery device is. It honestly feels just as bad as the jet ski moment from Resident Evil 4 VR, because the game had so much trouble detecting whether you were turning or not. Even when you were physically like moving your controllers to simulate a turning animation when you're on the jet ski, the game just would not register it, and it was so badly handled. But honestly, I would say the artillery device is even worse, because you're having to basically do all of that like you did in Resident Evil 4 VR, but for a longer duration, and they make it such a crucial part of Heisenberg's fight, and it's just so bad. And how anyone can even have the strength needed to just keep your arms like this, just raising your elbows up, and then holding your arms out like this, just trying to pilot this artillery device. What the fuck were they thinking when they designed that? Fatigue just easily sets in on your arms when you're having to keep your arms raised so that the game actually detects your turning. I do find it interesting, the idea of using the cannon and the machine gun at the same time. So it's interesting that they decided to make it like seamless like that. But they just made the rest of the artillery device awful. So I don't even know if it's worth going back to this VR version of Resident Evil Village once I do my walkthrough, because I don't see myself coming back to this game ever. Only the original version. And if this is the state of new Capcom's idea of what a VR game should be for Resident Evil, then I can't say I'm looking forward to Resident Evil 4 Remake VR. It's also nice that they put in like the full amount of mines and pipe bombs that are currently in your inventory into your jacket. I can't stand that about Resident Evil Village, because in Resident Evil Village on the original version, whenever you selected mines or pipe bombs, you could not hold the full amount that was in your inventory. If you selected one slot that had like one mine in it, aside from another slot that has like 5 mines in it, if you selected the one that has the one mine in it, you're only able to use one mine before you have to go back into the inventory to get the other sets of mines, and it's so dumb. And Resident Evil 7 never had this issue, so how the fuck are they making that mistake? That is so bad, the way you swap between the grenade types. Because in order to even press triangle, you have to let go of the left analog stick. It's not like you can use your middle finger or your ring finger to hit triangle so that you can keep your thumb on the left thumbstick. It's just a lot better to use your thumb to hit triangle, and you have to let go of the movement button. So in order to even change your ammo type, you have to stop moving. I hate that. I can't do it. Because I have to use the key items in real time, so I can't go into the inventory and lay the key mold there before that Soldat Panzer can attack me. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't do it. I have to get him out of the way. Oh, and he's there as well? Shit! I didn't know the Soldat jet could follow you. Put it in! And I missed it because the detection's shit. Alright, time to get the hell out of here. Yep. Yet another reason why I don't see myself coming back to this VR version. I gotta say, I thought I would have a lot of problems throwing explosives in this game, but no. And the only reason I was expecting that is because on the Oculus Quest 2, throwing stuff in a VR game was painful. That's why I'm glad that Resident Evil 4 VR had that whole feature where you could hold grenades off camera, and then you get that throwing arc, and then the grenade, if you just let go of the grab button, it would just go along that path. It was one of the best design choices I've ever seen for a throwable object in a VR game. Because VR games are not very good at calculating the trajectory, torque, and angle of your locomotion when you're throwing items. It's pretty bad. Okay, but I have to get this guy over here. Hopefully it won't be too much of a hassle. And of course it fucking was. Of course it had to be too much of a fucking hassle. The detection is terrible. Put it in. There we go. The flow to Heisenberg's factory is so much better on the original version. If New Capcom was already stupid enough when developing this game, they should not be handling a VR version. Okay, I remember on hardcore difficulty I had difficulties with this part. It's this part, because I have to use a flash grenade on these haulers. Every time I tried to run past these guys, they always caught me. And then you have that, where when they're in the middle of a rising animation, they are invulnerable to flash grenades. So he didn't get flashed, and he was able to use the sprint counter to cancel his rising animation. So stupid. That Resident Evil 2 remake garbage. It's not just something with the sprint counter, it's just a general thing the enemies are able to do. So look at that. If that was any other VR game, I would not be able to nail that throw. I don't know what they've done with the programming on that, but it's really good. Wrong. I hate that so much.
Oh, she doesn't care for us? No. She's long lost all her humanity.
We'd never be able to do that in the original version of Resident Evil Village, looking all the way up. Same as well in Resident Evil 4, and the VR version allowed you to look all the way up. This, however, is going to be very difficult to do, because I have to use very precise aiming to hit this one switch. It's all the way up there. There we go. Oh! That failed. But I wonder what an Evil Within VR would be like. That'd be very unplayable. But it'd be interesting if they did a VR version of the Evil Within. If they did a first-person mode for the Evil Within 2. But who knows? Maybe Evil Within 3 might have a VR version for all I know. Damn it, get the fucking... Oh! Oh god! I really thought that was gonna get me. But see that? That's a hitbox that if I was not aiming in the original version of Resident Evil Village, I would have been hit. Oh, as a matter of fact, I wanted to see what the fist did against the soldats. Just enjoying the view. Just chillaxing. Hey there. Oh, the silly things that you can do in VR.